run of about 3 years, and I bounced around from, there was an AM saute position. I started off working AM garmage, worked into PM garmage, and then they had an opportunity to get me on the hotline to do saute there, and that was a monster. I mean, AM saute at that restaurant, I mean, you're picking up probably anywhere between 15 and 20 items, on the regular breakfast menu, and then any kind of specials that chef wants to throw at you as you're going as well.
It's one of those restaurants that once the third ticket comes in, you're in the shits.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like 3 people walk through that door, you're done.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is, you are your own ship at that point.
Exactly.
And it's just really kind of navigating it, and that's before he brought in the 8-burner. So I had a 6-burner at the time. He brought in the 8-burner.
And one's for pasta.
Yeah,
brunch.
Well, no, the problem is most of the time we had
poaching eggs.
Home fries. So we had home fries always being cooked up until Saturday. So all the weekdays, Monday through Friday. So if you got a busy lunch rush,
you're fucked.
You're screwed because I'm like working on 3 or 4 different projects at the same time. So it's like home fries over here, working on cassoulet over here. Next thing I know, I'm down to 3 burners working a lunch shift trying to make it happen. So.
Yeah. How much potatoes are you going through a week?
We were, I think at that time, I mean, I'm sure Derek would correct me, but I think we were close to about 1,000 to 1,200 pounds of potatoes a week.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, we were cooking off about 150 pounds a day.
I mean, between the fries, hash browns. I mean, you guys had sandwiches too for lunch. Busy fucking restaurant.
Yeah, no, it was. But yeah, we do about 50 pounds. We do a full case of potatoes per batch. So we do 3 cases a day. Times 5. So that's pretty much where we'd be at.
Holy fuck!
That's 15 cases of each potatoes. Yeah.
So when did you decide you had enough of Derek's?
Honestly, it was less of had enough. I was offered an opportunity to come out to Colorado with my friend Julia Bouchard, who still to this day.
Oh shit, Julia Bouchard, what up, Julia?
Yeah, dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
Is
she in town?
She's out here in Colorado.
No fucking way.
Yeah, dude, she's been out here for a long time, man.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I remember.
But yeah, she was a best friend from high school growing up. Was always like. She used to work at Frederick's Pastry, and she worked in the culinary world a little bit more than I did before I, just in a different way, I'd say. But she really found her way and did well, and got herself out to Providence, and then she had an opportunity to move with a boyfriend of hers out to Colorado.
Yeah,
and asked me if I wanted to join them, and I was like, no, I've got this great thing going on in Nick's. I don't really know what I'm doing yet.
Yeah.
I want to kind of see what's possible here. And then kind of came to the end of my time at Nick's on Broadway, was ready to do something different, and Colorado just seemed like it was the time for me to make that choice. Yeah. So moved out here to Colorado. That was about 11 years ago.
Had you been here before?
I came out to visit about a year before I moved, just to kind of check it out.
Get the lay of the land.
And I had some friends out here. Brian Casey was out here.
Okay.
I had some other culinary friends, people that we had gone to college with.
Yeah.
That kind of made their way out here, and Allie Jones is one of them. She was out here on that initial.
Is she still out here?
No, she's in California now.
Okay, what's she doing?
I think she's doing stuff in the tech world these days.
Oh,
she's doing.
Shout out Allie Jones.
She got out to shout out to Allie Jones, man. I was actually thinking about it earlier today.
Yeah.
She's just crushing it out there. But she got out of the cooking thing and got into computer programming, and now is doing tech stuff, and seems like she's doing really great for herself. So,
well, the first time I did acid, I got it from her.
that's how that pays. Back in the day, that was Allie Jones, Miss Jones.
It was a great time. I remember it had a jack-o'-lantern. No, what's the guy from fucking? Land Before Time. Not Land Before Time. Nightmare Before Christmas.
I was like, Land Before Time? You talking about dinosaurs?
No, it was the little fucking dude, Jack
Skellington.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I forget his last
there
name.
He is. There he is.
I don't have that on quick draw. I'm not.
Yeah, no.
I like the movie, but I'm not like those crazies out there. Probably going to lose like 15 listeners right now.
It's all right, man.
But it's all good. So... Allie Jones, everybody brings you out here about you're in Colorado. What's your first move?
So the first move is I went ahead and asked around about some places I should cook at. And I knew Alex Seidel, who's one of the more prominent chefs here in Colorado, and kind of talked to his sous chef. And he was like, hey, my buddy Lon is opening up this restaurant, this place called Cholon. They're second year in, but he's a high-level chef, worked at John George and whatnot. So went and cooked for him for a while. That the year that I cooked for him was an interesting year. and kind of really kind of made a turning point in my career.
Yeah.
Working long hours, not being allowed to get overtime, basically coming in early unpaid.
Yeah.
And making
shift pay.
I think I was making like $350 a week.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Making such meager money that
you feel bad spending money on food.
Exactly.
That's how broke you are.
And honestly, it was at a point in my life where it's like, you try to get out of selling drugs, right?
Yeah,
when you're getting out of college, but when you're like a startup chef and you're trying to make the right moves,
that's where the money's at.
Sometimes it's hard, man,
yeah.
and sometimes you're trying to lean on these other things to really kind of help you get through these tough times.
Dude, I mean, I made a living on fucking selling weed through college, like fucking
yeah, man. I mean, and that's the reality, and that kind of like brought me to a point where I realized in my career, and this was kind of a big turning point in two full moments. Scott Champa, who had went to school with us.
Oh shit,
as well,
yeah, I'm going to see him in Nashville.
He was out here, and me and him had talked about opening up a brewery and doing something with beer, and kind of looked at it and saturated market at that time. I think it was like the real big come up in the Colorado beer market.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it was kind of like the big come up, and I had to make a decision of like what I really wanted to do. And one of the old chefs that I worked with over at Cholon, Stuart Jensen, good buddy of mine. If you ever come out to Colorado, please check out his Curio Bar that's in Denver Central Market, and he just opened up, I think, a new concept out in Lakewood.
Oh, word up.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it's Lakewood Marketplace.
Okay.
But he just opened up a brand new spot out of there. But he's doing great. Unfortunately, he had to close one of his bars. COVID played its part on some of these restaurants and bars. But
sure.
But awesome dude, really good guy, and gave me a shot as being a bar back at Green Russell, which at the time was a really, or even still is a very really nice high end speakeasy here in Denver. And a bar back there for a while, and kind of was like, I'm ready to make the change. Now, going back to Johnson & Wales, I got my degree in beverage service management and kind of found myself in the scenario where it's like I felt like I knew as much as the bartenders did about spirits and wine and things like that.
Got you.
And I was like, but I'm not doing anything with this knowledge. And I'm like, how do I use it in some way?
Yeah.
And kind of found myself in a place where it was like, I gotta do something. I gotta change it up.
Yeah.
So ended up getting a phone call from my buddy Kyle West, who I knew floating through town, and he was like, "Hey, I'm working at this Italian restaurant. I'm looking for bartenders. I know you're a little green, but I want to get you in here and kind of check it out." And then I started, bar backing, was serving, ended up bartending, and in that single year of that job, I went from being a bartender, a bar back, and a server, and kind of evolved that position into morning AM manager, into a bar lead, into ended up becoming a corporate trainer and helped people train managers and like bartenders and servers. And that was in like my first year and a half of bartending. And that just came naturally to me just because, I've already kind of did the motions in the kitchen.
Yeah,
I feel
exactly.
I feel like bar and kitchen, it's the same idea. It's same like mise en place, having everything like dialed in, but still like understanding that creativity where you can, take these different flavors and try to mesh them in the most unique and creative way that you can to really highlight and accentuate some of these flavor profiles. So,
fuck yes, dude.
Yeah. But...
So after that all happened, how long did you stay there?
So I stayed at Gaetano's for about a year and a half until they ended up selling the restaurant to some guy named Ron Robinson, and this guy was a very interesting guy. I mean,
what did he do?
He's just if you go to his office, you call him the sticky pad boy.
It's just sticky pads.
Oh yeah, just go and get your sticky pad boy. Just like sticking them all over his office. Like literally, you could like whole wall.
It's like he's an FBI detective.
Yeah, no, it's just like literally every single note he had, every thought he had is like written off in there.
I like that, bro. I should do that shit.
So in any case, I was like, I was like, nah, man, he wasn't vibing with me and like where his future path was.
Yeah.
So they got a job with this guy Goose Sorensen and ran his bar program for a while. I was getting hired on from a bar manager who is, trying to get me to be like a part-time bartender and like a cocktail guy to help him out during busy nights. And what ended up happening is I ended up getting into a situation where I show up for my first day of training. The bar manager had been fired, and I was like getting trained by a temp guy who was just like a friend of Goose's, who is like hopping in to like help him out with the bar. So I immediately moved into a role of like basically being a head bartender.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is like my second year in bartending.
Yeah.
So really kind of dove into like figuring out, how to build a cocktail menu, and, he reached out to some of my mentors in the beverage world, and, started reading a lot more, and really kind of started focusing on, how to develop, more, extensively creative cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
And, did that. And I ended up being at that job for almost 3 years. And then I had a short lull after that, but that was a great place, man. It was cool neighborhood Spanish tapas bar. It was funny. It was a Spanish tapas bar, but we had truffle mac and cheese on the menu.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a staple. We had like, Thai calamari, it was just very, but we still had like paella.
Eclectic.
Yeah, eclectic. You know what I mean? It was Spanish
Yeah.
restaurant. But in any case, the food was good. And it was just always that like comfy neighborhood spot. And I thought, I always give credit to Goose on that it was just always this place where you could go, and no matter what, you just always felt at home.
Yeah.
And that was the vibe of the place.
That's important.
And I think that, when you go into a lot of restaurants, especially these days, like the decor means something, but it's like, it's always about that like camaraderie you feel in the space.
Exactly.
Knowing your neighborhood bartender, or like, me knowing all the locals who would come in week after week. I remember having, customers that would come in who, had gotten pregnant and had a kid, and then bring in the kid. Like I even had one customer tell me one time that, one night of me giving them and sliding them some drinks, that they ended up conceiving a child based off of my my drink recommendations for that night.
Bro,
So.
Chef Jake Rojas always said, I don't want them going home full. I want them home going to fuck.
Exactly.
That's how you know you did a good job.
That's why you know you did a good job, man. So that was, but I miss those days of having that level of regulars and, doing that stuff.
You think they were picturing you while they were doing it?
I hope not. I hope not. You know what? I don't think they think about short Jewish men when they're doing this stuff. But
so, where do you go from this place?
So this is actually where I got into the job that I currently have now. So this is moving us towards Peak Beverage.
Yeah. Did you know about this place? Did you buy from this place?
No, so this is actually the secondary location that we're in today. So this is a much larger scale and professional space than what we started with.
Heard.
So, Peak Beverage was started in 2012 by a man named Andy Klosterman, who was our CEO.
Okay.
Andy had worked at bar companies out in California and really kind of saw this concept of beverage catering as, a completely open world.
Yeah.
Basically there's like, when you think of beverage catering, you're thinking like 1970s, 1980s, syrup pouring out of a bottle kind of bartenders.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I feel like as the culinary world evolved in the last 15 years or even further, 20 years, at this point, even further than that, talking Alice Waters and things like that. But like, I feel like the cocktail world has always been, ahead of the game. But when you get into cocktail catering or event like beverages, it always was kind of dumbed down. And I feel like it was always this thing that like when you talk about like you're in beverage catering, it's like this snafu that you're like this underling that works at like a fast food restaurant
exactly.
Beverage catering. And it was one of those things that I always thought was really interesting of like, okay, but what if you elevated it and what if you did it better than anybody else? And so he started that project, and a good friend of mine, Adam Douglas, who is now my boss, but he was in a position where he was working for a tiki bar out in Arvada. He would look for a new opportunity, and me and him kind of caught up one night at Star Bar, which is an industry bar here in Denver. If you ever want to meet the who's who of the beverage or food world, you usually find somebody floating around Star Bar singing karaoke on Thursdays, or just going to get like a nice pour of mezcal at the end of a shift. But anyway, I had a conversation with him, and I was kind of looking for some new work. And he was like, "Hey, man, we're looking to hire some people. It's not going to be a big role; it's going to be something small." And at that point, I had just been done, 3 years of managing and like dealing with people and running a bar program. So I was ready to just be
done with it,
ready to be another pawn on somebody else's board to do the work. But yeah, my first day at Peak Beverage started off with me in the warehouse, and I was cleaning equipment, loading trucks, building pallets, things like that, and then immediately one of the people on the management team was like, "Hey, I heard you have management experience." I was like, "Yeah, I ran this. I've been a trainer. I've done this, that, and the other." and kind of like at that time really had this great opportunity to kind of move up in the company. So day 2, I was a manager in field, which a little bit different than the manager position of being a bar manager. This is more of like you drive a truck somewhere, you run a team of people for the event. You're just the event manager for the beverage side.
Yeah.
So it's kind of less hands-on. It's more hands-on in the moment, but you kind of get to step away.